As of this very moment, we have 53 days to finish this insane build. And when I say finished, it has to be ready to do some crazy skids at one of Australia's biggest drift events. Am I panicking? Definitely. If you're unfamiliar with this build, this is a fake Lamborghini kit car shell, and it's actually a very rare one-to-one exact copy. And we installed that shell on top of an old BMW E36 that we found on my friend's farm. And if that's not enough for you, it's got a front-mounted 13B turbo rotary motor. If you haven't seen the previous videos, I highly recommend you go back and watch them. It has been a very fun build so far, but in this video, we're gonna carry on exactly where we left off. So in the last video, we were installing our fully custom rear end. So I do read all of the comments on every video I make, and a bunch of you guys did suggest that we should sleeve the control arms that we extended in the last video. Of course, I took your guys' advice and we've gone ahead and sleeved over the top of the welds to make sure that this whole setup is super strong, because the last thing we want is one of these arms breaking, a wheel coming off, and we destroy our fiberglass body, which would be absolutely heartbreaking. So thank you so much for your advice in the comments. And if you're watching and you have any advice throughout any of these videos, feel free to throw it in the comments below. Of course, I've now painted these arms as well. I added some sparkle in the paint, you know, signature sparkle, had to be done. But you'll see on this side, we've left all of the arms out. That's because the first thing we're gonna do in this video is start to finish our rear tubs. That basically means we're going to enclose this gap all around the rear wheels so that we don't get any crap into the car. When we're drifting, when it's wet, when we're going over stones or anything like that, we need this all fully sealed. I've got my SP Tools measuring tape. I have some sheet metal, so let's get measuring, cutting, and let's get to work.
This is the first time I've had to make inner guards for a car, so it was always going to be a bit of trial and error. Once I marked out my measurements and cut my steel, I tried to fit it all in one piece, but it just wasn't going to happen like that, so I ended up cutting it in half and fitting it in two pieces, which worked a lot better.
So many hours later, and I've half completed the job to a point where I'm pretty happy. So this is how it currently looks. As you can see, it's like half finished. So basically I welded in all of the sheet metal and then I seam sealed, but unfortunately I have run out of seam sealer. So basically it's just spot welded everywhere, and then I ran out of seam sealer back here. But my ADD of course got the better of me and I decided to throw down some undercoat. But this undercoat paint that I have, I'm not super happy with it. So I'm gonna jump into Autobahn tomorrow morning and get some of the good stuff, the stuff that I know actually works. But I'm really happy to have this job pretty much done. It came out pretty well. I went all the way to the back here, and then back here we have mesh going in here as well. So it should all look super tidy. Obviously all of this will be painted by the end result, but look how freaking wide this tub is. Through here as well, I'll seal all the way through here, and then this guard, this lip here, we're gonna chop this off because we're gonna tuck wheel with our gangster wheels. But basically by the time we're finished, this should all look super tidy. Also, I'm sure this pink right here is distracting you guys, but I had a little bit of pink left over from our E36 drift car. But basically I slapped some wrap on the rear quarters to see how straight the quarters are when they're glossy, and like it doesn't look too bad at all, which means we should have not a crazy amount of body work to do on this thing before it gets its final color, which is not pink. If you do want to know the final color, hit that subscribe button and follow along with the journey. The other side is also done, but again, we ran out of seam sealer as well, so we're gonna put that on pause. So I'm gonna throw the arms back in the rear and throw the rear end all back together. Then we're gonna make a bash bar for the front of our car.
Nailing the rear fitment on this build is so important to the overall look and feel of the car, and it's been one of the more challenging aspects of the build overall, because the Lamborghini rear end is just so wide, but I think we may have finally nailed it.
Look at that. That looks absolutely insane. Our rear end is tentatively all back together. And I honestly can't believe this used to be an E36. Look how wide this thing looks now. Like, it looks ridiculous. All of our custom arms and everything are in the car, and so far I'm really happy with the end result. Obviously this all needs to come back out because we're going to fully paint underneath here, and I've got a bunch more stuff we need to tidy up. But check out the wheel fitment now. Like, that is going to be absolutely spicy. I also ended up cutting out the lip on the guard as well, just so that we don't break anything when we let the car down off the hoist. Here's the wheel fitment from the front, but check that out. That is so good. I did see someone comment in the last video about the axles that we're going to be using. So we will be using the fully custom two-step garage axle kit that we use in our E36 competition car. Basically, that makes use of a billet aluminium spacer that you can see right here. It bolts to the axle stub. Then we have a custom outer stub here that goes into our trailing arm, and basically that allows a Holden Commodore axle, a really big beefy axle, to be bolted between the diff and the hub. Obviously for this car we're going to need a wider setup, but all we do to compensate for that is just make this billet spacer wider. There's also different variations of sizes of the Holden Commodore axles that we can buy, so I'll buy the longest axle we can buy, then all we do is just make this wider to make up for the space that we need to bolt them into this car. Alright, so before we get this thing down onto the ground and get back to working on the interior, we've got to deal with an issue that a lot of men deal with these days, and that is a floppy front end. So of course our shell is mounted to our chassis. It's supported in the rear end, it's supported over the wheel arches, but the front at the moment is not supported at all, and oof, look at that. It's floppy, which is really not good. Every time we bump this thing, the front end wobbles around and it just makes me feel uncomfortable. So Woz has gone ahead and bent us up a front bash bar. Now, although I don't expect to be bashing anyone in this car, unlike our E36 here, which constantly seems to be nudging people, the bash bar in this thing is mainly gonna be for front support, because it's basically gonna hold up our front end, as well as holding two Phoenix oil coolers, one in each corner of the car to keep our 13B rotary turbo motor nice and cool. Thank God Woz has done the hard part of bending it up, so all we need to do is go ahead and weld it. So she's tack welded in, and the true test now is to see whether we can actually remove this thing. So as you can see, it's kind of sitting a little bit off from all the way at the front of the bumper, and that is just so we can slide it off where it bolts up, because if I had it all the way forward, there's no way you're ever getting it off, which would be a real pain in the butt. But where it is, it still acts as a bash bar, still supports the front of the car, but it's removable, hopefully. Moment of truth. Good news, it is removable, which is awesome news. So now we'll go ahead and final weld the whole thing, throw it back in the car. Bash bar successfully welded. Let's go. Time to YouTube magic this thing into the front of the car. Alright, so the bash bar is now in. Look at that. That looks absolutely phenomenal. Nice and simple, nothing too crazy or over the top, but exactly what it needs to be. But of course, the moment of truth here is we need to let the jack off the front of the car and see if it sits exactly where it needs to. Man, this is the slowest jack ever. What an anticlimax. So the front of the car is now sitting on the bash bar, and it's doing exactly what it needs to do. So I can tell because the front here used to sag a lot and get really close to the front tire, whereas now it's given us all the clearance around the front because we're actually supporting the front end, which is really nice. And it does give us more clearance for the new wheels that we've bought for this car. I could not be more excited about these wheels. They're on the way at the moment, and they're going to completely transform this car. I got one hell of a deal on Facebook Marketplace. They should be turning up sometime next week, but let's get the car down on the ground now. I'm keen as chips to have a look and see how this rear wheel fitment looks with the front wheels now that we've all got it fitting super nice. It's hard for me to explain to you guys how insane of a presence this thing has. And I'm not sure we're gonna fully capture it on camera, but man, this thing just looks absolutely crazy. Piece by piece, seeing it transform into a proper car is just absolutely unreal. And that rear wheel fitment is just looking absolutely perfect. Look at that. Spot on. We couldn't have got it any better. Well, it's going to be a little bit better because the wheels that we have coming are slightly wider, but we'll still be running the 265 tire, so the wheel will just sit out a little bit more, but the tire will sit in exactly the same spot. Here is how it looks from behind so far. It's looking so good, and I actually have a pretty crazy idea for the exhaust that I can't wait to share with you guys. I've even got the rear lid set on here as well now. That needs a little bit of work to be sitting exactly how I want it. And then this rear part here, we've got a slot for our wing plates as well. I also purchased the taillights for this thing today, and Toby from Chimera Development is currently 3D printing the taillight bezel as well. So slowly but surely, all of the parts are starting to roll in. All right, skip forward. I was going to end the video there, but I want this video to have more substance for you guys. So we're gonna do something that I'm super excited about, and that is a real, I don't know how to say it. It's a real feature of this build, and that is, of course, the scissor doors on the car. Now we know they go up and down, but currently they aren't functional because they don't have struts. So as a human, you have to lift it up and down by yourself. Well, we don't want to be doing that at the track. Thank you, Dan.
It's also not that heavy, it's fiberglass.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I'm very excited about getting these functional and actually working. So I went shopping and we bought some gas struts so that we can install these in the car and have the doors go up and down. Real satisfying like.
Do they make that sound as well?
Yeah, they go.
Oh.
But somehow we have to figure out how to get these into the car because there's no real manual or instructions. And of course, though this is, I guess, a one-of-one copy of a Lamborghini Diablo, it's not exactly the same, so we can't directly copy the Diablo for the door strut install, but we do have a fair idea of exactly how we're gonna do it, I think.
We'll make it work.
That's right. So we've already started cutting into our door. Shall we show them, Dan?
Doesn't look pretty just yet, but
nothing looks pretty until you finish it. And then even when I finish most of my stuff, it still doesn't look pretty. So basically these struts mount to the body and then to the inside of the door. But it's not perfectly straightforward when it comes to how these go up and down, because as they go in and down, these move down on an angle inside the door. So we've already cut a hole in this door, but you actually have to cut an oval shaped hole so that the strut can move up and down inside the door as it goes down. It's a little bit of maths that you have to figure out, which we're not very good at all.
no.
Yeah.
Maths is not my strong suit.
Exactly. And then we're also gonna have to make L brackets because the way it's gonna sit like this will bolt up like here on the body. So my freshly painted cage. So we'll make an L bracket that this bolts to, and then we'll have to fiberglass an L bracket to the inside of our door. Hopefully after all of that, we have something that resembles a scissor door that actually works.
What does it do?
Without further ado, put your mask on and let's Dremel out this hole and make sure it's big enough for our struts.
The scissor doors are an iconic feature of the Lamborghini, and this is perhaps the most important part of the whole build. There's just something about seeing those doors pop up that makes you feel a certain kind of way. So you can understand why I've lost sleep planning this install out in my brain. Fingers crossed it goes to plan.
Good?
Yeah.
Best tool in the SP Tools range right here. So good. All right, so I have to admit, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves whilst installing the door strut, and our scissor door officially works. Daniel, do you want to do the honors? This is actually such a cool moment in this build. Are you ready?
Just make them
Oh, this is the pause for anticipation. Oh my God. So here's the L bracket that we made right here. I'm actually really happy with it. So that is flat-headed bolts bolted to our riv nuts. Then the strut goes up through our beautiful hole in the door, which I will finish off and make look really nice when we're doing all the finishing touches on the car. Obviously we'll paint this bracket as well. Then inside the car we come up, and what we did here, so here is a bracket that we made, and we basically, you fiberglass filler it to the inside of the door. So we flappy disc down the inside of the door to expose the raw fiberglass. Then it's simply fiberglass filler. This plate goes all the way up to here. So fiberglass filler underneath, slap the plate on, 2 coats of fiberglass filler on top, and I'm gonna add another coat under here as well. But this is more than strong enough at the moment. Look at that. Fits beautifully. Look, so that's why we had to do the hole like this, because as you'll see when Dan puts it up now, it moves through the hole as it goes through the stroke. So you can see there all the way up. Look how close it is, but it fits perfectly. I'm so happy with that, dude.
Sick.
That's crazy.
So cool.
Oh my God. I love it. Scissor doors, baby. And it looks like the struts that we got are literally perfect for our doors. Now granted, we don't have the door card on yet or the window in the door, so that will add a little bit of weight, but it doesn't even have the door clicker in yet, and it stays down nicely. And then when you grab it, like, that is, that's unbelievable. Oh, that's so good.
What other car can we do it to?
I know, put scissor doors on all the cars. Guys, we have scissor doors on our Lambo. It makes it look so much more legit as well. That was actually a lot easier than I expected it to be.
I was a bit worried at the start, like, is it gonna work? Like,
Yes.
is it gonna hold? But
Look, honestly, we dawdled around a bit. It probably took us an hour. Like, we kind of mucked around a little bit.
including the fiberglass frame.
So good. Well, I think that is the perfect high note to end this video on. Of course, I'll do the other door off camera. It's the same thing we've just done, but again, copy and paste basically. Daniel, thank you for your help. As always, it's way more fun working on cars with friends than it is working on cars by yourself.
I feel like we did pretty good.
Yes, I wanted to get more done tonight, but we had a live stream, which was super enjoyable. This car is coming along leaps and bounds. I mean, just look at it. It looks ridiculous. And every part that we add, it's just gonna keep looking more ridiculous, sir. And of course, there's still the color to come, and you guys are not ready for how this thing is gonna look once it is all one color. I believe we are doing that on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of this month, so it's not far away, which gives me a little bit of a heart attack because I have a lot of work to do still, a lot of body work. But thank you guys so much for watching. What a journey we're on. This thing is going to be incredible when it's finished. Make sure you jump on twostepgarage.com and grab yourself some fake Lambo merch. Every purchase goes in the draw to win that Camus sim racing setup. It's worth $700. You could have it in your lounge or in your girlfriend's bedroom and really just annoy her, which is always fun. Don't forget to subscribe if you feel like it. We're on the road to 100K, trying to get there by Christmas. Not sure if we're gonna make it, but thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next Lambo episode. Dan?
Peace out.
Peace. Bye. Look at that. We got scissor doors. Something about scissoring, insert here. Bye.